timer. You
Is
can,
it recording, yeah?
you can clap that in if you want.
Oh, it's not left-handed, it's like right-handed. Right-handed. So say thank you for coming today, Shelby. We brought you on today to talk about your business and what you've been doing. So what is it you do?
So I am a qualified paralegal. I'm also a qualified police station representative with a law degree and a master's degree in law. And all my work is based around criminal defence.
Okay, and what's your company?
So SCCS is a consultancy company representing clients in the police station and working with other law firms to build Crown Court defences, magistrate court defences, and looking after clients right from the police station all the way through until the end of their cases.
Amazing. And so, how old are you?
I'm 27.
So you're fairly young to
Yes.
be in this industry, right?
Yeah, very young compared to most, yeah.
And when did you start studying?
So I started studying law when I was 20, I think. And I didn't want to go into law originally. I wanted to do forensic science. I wanted to be the CSI at all the crime scenes. And then I had family issues and things that happened, which meant that I couldn't go to the university I wanted to go to. So I did a law degree online, loved it, continued with it. And then I found a small law firm who were willing to take me on without any qualifications, any experience in law.
Yeah.
And managed to get all of my police station qualifications, my paralegal qualification, and go from there to where I am now.
Amazing. So is that like an apprenticeship sort of type
Yes,
thing?
so I did a paralegal apprenticeship for 2 years. During that time, I was running Crown Court cases, magistrate cases, right from kind of rapes, murders, through to large drug cases. I then qualified in police stations. So I go to the police station early hours of the morning, late at night. I represent clients in police custody and help them from there on through to whether it's trial or whether it's a first hearing.
Okay. So what made you want to work within the law system?
So, as I said, it wasn't my original plan. It's not what I had set out for myself. It's not what my, dream career was. It was almost something that I kind of fell into. And when I started working for this little Oxford firm, I realised that actually I loved law and I really loved the clients I was meeting and the work that I was doing. And so I stayed doing it for the 2.5 years I think it was 3.5 years with a small Oxford firm. Moved to a London law firm where I got to work with some fantastic barristers, going to court, seeing how the court process works, and then decided that I loved what I did so much that I wanted to create SCCS so that I can do it in my own time, around my own life.
Amazing. So what do you get out of defending? So you're defending criminals on a daily basis, and how
Alleged criminals.
Well, yeah, no, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sorry, alleged criminals. Have you got do you enjoy justice? Like, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely love my job. I get to meet different people every single day. When you get called to a police station at 2-3 in the morning, you don't know who you're going to meet. And I think that for me is one, quite exciting. It's exciting to meet new people and hear new stories and learn about new people. And I enjoy building that relationship with them, knowing that I'm the person that they're trusting with this massive thing in their life. And absolutely, it's their freedom, it's their liberty, and being trusted with that I think is quite serious, and it's quite it's a confident building thing because they trust you and they don't have to stay with you. Once you go with them in the police station and they get out, they can then go with another solicitor. But if you have built that relationship with them, they stay with you, they trust you, and they will follow your advice all the way through until the end of their case. And I love helping my clients. I like getting to the root of the case, building the case with them, learning about them and using their personal details to build their own defence and then going to court with them. And when you see a positive outcome, it is honestly the best feeling.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
So is there a reason is there something in you that really wants to see justice for any reason? Is there anything that's triggered that for you to want to be protecting people from unlawful prosecutions?
So I grew up in an abusive household. I had parents that argued quite violently with one another, would react quite violently with us. And so I was constantly the protector of my siblings. I'm the oldest of 7. So I've protected my siblings kind of from when they were born all the way through, whether it was like school bullies or whether it was things at home. I've always been very much the protective big sister. And when I was growing up, I was definitely not shy to having the police at my front door with my parents or having social services around. And so it's something that I think is just ingrained in me to want to protect people from bad things. And especially, I think a misconception with the criminal justice system is that the second you're kind of charged with an offence, you're guilty and you're a criminal. And I don't think that it is thought about enough that it is innocent until proven guilty. That is that it's your human right to have a trial and to be treated innocent until you are proven guilty, until the evidence is stacked against you. And I can't tell you the amount of cases that I've done with clients who have come out as not guilty because the evidence against them wasn't strong. And that's what we do. That's what we're here for.
That's your job.
Yeah.
So when you were growing up, you were saying you had incidences with the police and stuff. Did you sort of grow up with a fear for the police or a sort of...
Yeah, I would say so. So I had an incident when I was younger where my dad was pulled over on the side of the road. He had my sister and me in the car. And obviously I was young at the time, so I don't know whether my dad had already had a falling out with this police officer or whatnot. But he pulled us over into a bus stop. My dad got out as he was told to do so. My sister and I stayed in the car. And the police officer just beat my dad up, right up against the window of the car. And I think from then I just had this massive fear of not only the police, because when you're that young, they don't come across as somebody that you can trust when you're watching your dad being beaten up by one. But also an absolute fear of being pulled over by the police. It was an absolute terrifying thing. And even to this day, like, it's still something that I'm scared of. And I was also not shy to having bailiffs at the front door, constantly, kind of banging the door down, threatening that they're going to come in, not caring that it's just young children in the house. And I think those big, scary people are the people that have helped me to become the person I am now, because now I know that I can be the big, scary person in a legal scenario, and I can fight for my clients when they're put in the same situations that I used to be put in.
Yeah, I mean, you're a voice for the people that can't defend themselves.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't have that education. Well, none of us do. None of us have that education, so having someone like you is really important. So where do you see yourself? Are you going to stay in this sort of law area, or are you going to change things? Or
I think I will always stay in criminal law.
Yeah.
I absolutely love my job. I really do. It's my favourite thing to get up for in the morning. I love going to the police station. I love looking after my clients. I like being their voice when they don't have one. And so I think I will definitely stay in criminal defence. My kind of goal is to build SCCS. So I run the company with my best friend, who at the moment is an NHS admin team member, and I'm training her in the legal sector. So I'm getting her police station accreditation. She comes out with me. She watches what I do on a daily basis. And then once she's qualified, the plan is to then build the company to a point where we can help as many people and as many firms as we possibly can. Because I think, unfortunately, lawyers in firms don't get paid very well. And I think because of that, there is not a lot of us around, or not, at least not as many as there should be for the amount of clients that there are. I think some police station duties I can deal with like 10 clients in custody a night. It's a busy job. It's a long job. I work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But I think loving my job is one of the biggest things that helps me just to get up at 3 a.m. and go to the police station.
Yeah, 100%. Do you, so these clients aren't paid, you're not paid by the client?
No.
So you're like an NHS type?
Yeah, so we're paid by the legal aid system, yeah.
That's it, okay. So, and because everyone is entitled to that.
Absolutely.
So, if someone's in a situation where they're not offered representation,
yeah,
they should be getting offered that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody's entitled to free and confidential legal advice at the police station, and that is given to them by the duty solicitor. So people like me who are on a rota for a certain day at a certain time at a certain police station, and we are who you call if you don't have your own solicitor, and we come out and we look after you, and then you have the choice after that whether you want to stay with us as your representative or whether you want to go to a different law firm. But everybody gets legal advice at the police station, and my biggest advice to anybody who ever gets arrested is do not go in without a solicitor. Do not do it. I mean, you have the choice, you don't have to have a solicitor, but we are trained to look out for things that the police can do and say that could be incriminating against you later on. We are there to make sure that you are legally protected and that everything is followed the way it's supposed to be followed. And unfortunately, not everybody is trained in that. So without us, you could go in and say something that could harm you later on that maybe you don't even realise at the time.
Yeah.
So it's definitely important to have...
I mean, there's tactics in how police interview you.
Yeah.
So unless you understand those tactics, which not any of us do, it's blind, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So any other advice, for someone that is going through criminal proceedings in terms of like protecting themselves, or any knowledge they can get for themselves outside of...
Obviously, my biggest piece of advice is to, like I said, always get a solicitor. And you need to trust your solicitor. You need to if you don't trust your solicitor, then get a new one. Because this is, at the end of the day, this is your case, it's your life, and it affects your life. It doesn't affect my life. I will go home at night and be fine. Your case is your case, and it's going to affect everything in your day-to-day life. So if you do not trust the person that you are putting that whole case in and basically putting your life in their hands, then you need a new solicitor. You need to be able to trust them, to talk freely with them, know that you can see them and speak to them as and when you need to, and they need to be available for you as and when you need. And if they aren't, then...
options to change league, you're the solicitor on shift, and they don't like you.
Yeah.
Are they able to ask for other representation?
Absolutely, yeah.
That would be in private?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I have had it in the past where a client hasn't felt fully comfortable with me. Sometimes it's because certain clients don't like females and they just want males to look after them. Sometimes it's just because we haven't built that bond. I mean, I can't build a bond with everybody. We're not all the same. And so if a client says to me, I'm sorry, but I just don't feel comfortable with you, or I don't want to speak to you, then that is when I need to stand up and say, right, I will get you another solicitor, or you can ask for another solicitor, because that trust is just so important.
And is there any particular type of criminal cases that you like to work on?
I love all cases. I just love criminal law. I really, really do. But I think my favourite type of cases, and it sounds really strange, would have to be the sex cases. So rape cases, sexual assaults, things like that. They are my favourite cases to work on. I think that there are so many different legal elements to them. There's so many different legal arguments to make on them. And unfortunately, cases like that happen often, and there is a misconception that every rape case and as soon as you're arrested for a rape case, you're a rapist. And I think it's important, and that's where that aspect of it's innocent until proven guilty is just so important, because the second that you label someone a rapist, that's their entire life completely changed. And even if they are later to be proven not guilty, that label is still there. And I think it's why I'm so passionate about it, because that label ruins lives. It really does. And so I work on these cases with all of my whole heart to get the best outcome for my clients, to help alleviate the stress of having that label.
And is it true that people are allowed to be named before they're proven guilty? In terms, I mean, in the public eye, there's a few celebrities that have been outed before they've actually got that conviction.
So unfortunately, the media run off on their own accord.
Right.
I'm sure most lawyers will agree with me when I say that we absolutely hate the press and we hate the media. They very often just sit in courtrooms waiting for interesting cases to come up, and then as soon as they won't even know what's on the docket for the day, but they sit in the Crown Court and they just wait, and then they get writing as soon as they hear anything. Absolutely, like vultures. And the media misconstrues things. What they're hearing, I mean, these people aren't legally trained. So when we're going through, say, a first hearing in a Crown Court, and we're setting stage dates and we're setting dates and directions for a court hearing and things that need to be done, like legal applications, they don't know what any of that means. All they're seeing is a person being accused of an offence, and they're taking a story and running with it. And unfortunately, there are no legal restrictions to stop that from happening unless a judge was to put in a gag order. And so unfortunately, people do get named and shamed before there is even an offence that has been made out. And it's an awful thing. I absolutely hate it. I have had clients' lives completely ruined just by what the media has written, because you can't erase that. Once it's been put out there.
And they even do it on the local news channels.
Absolutely.
As well, in your local community, before there is a conviction. They do name people as rapists or paedophiles and things like that.
They do, and the police do it too. the police have Facebook groups, they have Twitter groups, they have Instagram groups, and on there they post when they make arrests. And bearing in mind that they're just arrests. You haven't proven an offence. You haven't gone to a court and let them have their trial as is their human right to have one. And it is innocent until proven guilty. But the second they post that person...
Yeah, they're ruined.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's also important to acknowledge the families that are involved.
Yeah.
The what's it called, like the echo effect.
Absolutely. I've had so many clients who have been accused of, say, heinous offences, and they have young children, they have wives, they have family members, and it's the second that story is out there, they then become they become the public eye themselves. These children have to go to school knowing that those parents have spoken to the other children they go to school with, and then that's where bullying starts to happen, or stories start to go round, families get gossiped about, or...
Yeah, it's the innocent background as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
These false rape claims, they don't just hurt that one person who's
No.
trying to aim it at, they shatter whole communities sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's why it's great that you're defending, innocent people at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think the one question I always get asked, and I get asked it all the time, is how can you defend someone that's allegedly done this serious offence? And it is, and I know I keep saying it, but it is innocent until proven guilty. Everybody has a story to tell. I think the fact of the matter is that anybody pushed to a certain point can commit a criminal offence. None of us are angels. Everybody's committed some sort of tiny legal... breach or break of the law at some point in their lives, whether it's underage drinking or speeding. Like we all do things, and having someone to represent you is not only your right, but it should just be a given. I think there's always going to be two sides to every story, and my clients deserve to have their side of their story. They deserve to be heard.
Yeah. And they're arguing in a system they don't understand.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, they definitely need to have that educated defence, don't they?
Yeah. So,
if in terms of when you talked about, younger, having the police at the door, and, the bailiffs and things like that, what was that all about? Was that more like about your mum and dad? And
yeah, so we grew up in a quite poor family. I had parents who couldn't work due to medical issues. And so we were on benefits. My parents had, at the time, 5 kids. Life wasn't cheap. Life wasn't easy. So a lot of the time, your parents have to do things to protect their children that aren't legal, whether it was kind of stealing food to live and to eat, or whether it was doing other things to help protect us and look after us. And unfortunately, that meant that we couldn't always keep up with bills and rent. So that meant we had the bailiffs at the door. And it meant that my parents had to do things that meant the police were at the door. So it was definitely something I was not shy to, that's for sure.
Yeah. And did your parents ever spend any time in prison or anything like that?
So my mum went to jail for 7.5 years and got out in, not December just gone, but the December before that.
Wow.
My mum has mental health issues. She had drug addiction issues. And unfortunately, when she broke up with my dad, her life kind of spiraled after that, and she went into a downward spiral, and that led to the criminal offence that she then went on to commit. But that again is another point that, pushed to a certain point, anybody can commit a criminal offence if it's a need or necessity.
Yeah. And as soon as there's mental health and things that other factors, then it's just easier.
Exactly, and that's another reason why I do what I do, because people with ill mental health, people with other significant mitigating factors in their life that have not necessarily led them to commit the offence, but have contributed to the offence, they need to be heard, they need to be listened to, and they need to get the help they need.
So do you have cases where it's clear they've committed the offence, but you need to find out why, and is there any reason behind it where they should be more lenient on your...
Yeah, absolutely. So we have clients all the time who have ill mental health, and a lot of the time, because getting mental health help is not easy. It really isn't. I mean, you have CAMS with a wait list of 3 years plus. You have mental health teams who just don't listen to you until it gets to a point of committing a criminal offence, and then they say, oh shit, actually
Or
we
suicide.
exactly,
Yeah.
and then they say, oh God, we should have helped them when we had the chance. So these clients go through their lives without being able to get the help that they need. And so I very often get clients who have committed criminal offences because their mental health has gotten to a point where they can't, I don't know, whether it's control it anymore or they can't understand their own minds anymore. It happens way more regularly than not.
Yeah. And obviously drug addiction
Absolutely.
is part of mental health as well.
Yeah.
So, those are the things that drive a lot of crime, especially in our community and in London and things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, drug addiction is a disease.
Yeah.
And it's one that needs to be understood more and treated as such. And it leads people to commit all sorts of criminal offences.
Yeah. And there's sort of a gap, isn't there, between the mental health services and the police?
Yeah.
Because they both pass it between the two. And there's like a gap for something that needs to just sit right in the middle that's going to take some accountability for doing something rather than just passing them back and forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
There definitely isn't enough, I don't think, enough drug service and drug rehab work that's going on.
There really isn't. I mean, as someone whose parents were drug users, and someone who's definitely not shy to friends and family members being drug users, there just isn't enough help. They feel alone, and they feel like it's the only thing that they can do to kind of get away from whether it's certain aspects of their life or just certain components of their brain, and this is why they use the drugs and do what they do. And there really isn't just anybody they can just reach out to and get the help they need.
Yeah.
And it's also hard as say, for instance, you and I who aren't drug users, we don't understand how they feel. We don't understand how their brain is working, and so we can't help them ourselves, and that's where it goes to be a kind of domino effect on that person's family and friends, and eventually they become isolated because we don't know how to deal with it and help them understand it. So there needs to be more help, not only for those drug users, but also for the family members to help support them and understand it.
Education.
Absolutely.
And like what's the word I'm trying to think now? Preventative.
Yeah.
Prevention, instead of waiting until it gets to the extremities of committing crimes and doing these awful things and
100%.
And the suicides and stuff. So the education that needs to be out there to support, like you said, them and the families.
Yeah.
Are you involved in any sort? Do you get to offer your clients any support in terms of like outreach services?
So in the 7 years that I've been doing this job, I've built a lot of contacts with an array of different people. And so I have friends that are therapists. I have friends who offer mental health groups and things. So I always, if I'm in a police station with a client who actively wants the help, I will always give them the details of someone that I know that can help. I was in a police station, I think, a few weeks ago with a client who was a drug addict and also had kind of really severe mental health. And he was a man who felt like he couldn't speak out and felt like he just didn't understand how to speak out about how he was feeling, and didn't feel like, because of society, that he could speak out. And so I gave him the contact details of a friend that works for the Man Cave, and they reached out to him and they helped him, and now he's getting the help that he needs. And so I'm always actively trying to build contacts to pass to the clients that I meet every single day.
Do you think there's enough support from the police side in terms of getting the reach for help and external help outside of the police station?
I think, unfortunately, as much as lawyers are, police are overworked. And so, unfortunately, I think a lot of the time it's a case of handing someone a leaflet when they leave the police station. And let's be honest, that leaflet's going to go in the bin, it's not going to do anything, and they're not going to get any help. So I think the police could do more, and I think that they could actively check on clients regularly, especially when they're regular clients, someone that they know that they see in the police station all the time. Absolutely. So I definitely think the police could do more.
Yeah. It's all to do with funding, though, isn't it?
It is,
That's what it comes back to. Do you, I forgot, you notice the higher rate is around drug addiction or around mental health? Would you say it's sort of half and half?
It definitely depends on the offence. The majority of theft offences are committed by drug users and drug addicts. The majority of violent offences are either committed by drug addicts or people with very ill mental health. So it really does depend on the offence. Obviously, not every offence is committed under the influence of any drug or alcohol or mental health issues. But I would say that there is a higher majority than there is not.
Yeah. Okay. So, going back again to what we were talking about earlier about like your childhood and stuff, you know, I think, you know, having those experiences when you're a child must have made you feel like life was a bit unfair. And,
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like feeling a bit like a victim, and you know,
Yeah.
and then being able to protect people from a place of understanding how that feels to be accused, and
Yeah.
you know, have bailiffs and police turn up to your house as an innocent child.
It's
that
definitely
puts you in a better position not a better position. You have more empathy and you can connect better.
Without a doubt. I think when you envision a solicitor, you envision a well-spoken, suited and booted person with this super high education who's coming in and almost looking down on you. And the reason that I created SCCS was to come away from that perception of a solicitor. I have met so many solicitors in my career who are not like that at all. They are fantastic human beings, and that's the point. They remember that they are a human being. We have feelings and opinions and beliefs too, and we can use our past and our traumas or whatnot to help a client. And being able to say to my client, look, I know how you feel because I've been in that situation, let me help you, then creates that personal bond with a client that somebody without those traumas may not necessarily be able to build. And SCCS is based around being personable, being approachable, and being a human being.
Amazing. You feel like you have to have like walked the walk before you talk the talk, isn't it? You know,
absolutely.
It's all good and well to work in a profession with no experience of how terrifying dealing with the law when it's being unfair must feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really nice thing for your clients to experience, that you've obviously got that experience.
Yeah.
As traumatic as it must have been for you. And your plans for Casey are going ahead, and then you're obviously going to grow and you're going to get more partners, or not partners, but more. You know.
So I never created SCCS with the intention of being this big kind of law firm with lots of members of staff. I created it for freedom. Mm-hmm. I created it for flexibility. And I also created it to come away from massive law firms with very large expectations. As much as I have met fantastic lawyers and members of staff throughout my journey of getting to where I am now, unfortunately, big companies and small companies want to make money. And
it's not about the client.
No, exactly. And I think the issue is I appreciate a business needs money to run. I'm running a business, I get that. But also, without the clients, without the work and the assistance that we give them, and without that personal approach, we aren't going to make the money. So I think a lot of law firms are so based around the dollar sign that they don't remember that they are looking after a person who just needs time and attention.
And could set their life up for a completely different path.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I went from being a small scared child who had no education and did nothing but raise my siblings to someone now who sits in a police station and gets shouted and screamed at by clients and takes all the crap from a police officer or whatnot to looking after my clients and to where I am now. And it's definitely not where I saw myself when I was that scared little girl.
You could have taken a very different path, do you know what I mean? And that's what it's always good to inspire others, to show that when you're coming from those sorts of childhoods and stuff, you know, it doesn't mean you have to carry on going that way. And there are different paths. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, thankfully I have fantastic grandparents who pushed me to go into university and to go down that route, and my fiance, because at the time of meeting my fiance, obviously all of the trauma had kind of bubbled to the surface. I was a very angry person who hated the world, and like you said, felt like the world was unfair and was against me and just didn't want me to succeed. And my fiance pushed me to go to university. He pushed me to follow everything that I maybe considered that I was able to do but didn't believe I was able to do. And he actually pushed me to create SCCS. So I'm definitely forever grateful for him for seeing past the trauma and past the baggage and just believing I could do it. Absolutely.
And I think it's really important to say what you just said a minute ago. You feel like the world's against you. I think a lot of us will sit there and we'll complain and we'll go, you know, this isn't right. But none of us do anything about it.
No.
You can't change the world by sitting on your ass and doing nothing, you know. So for you to really make a difference, I think it's really good. And it must be so rewarding, as well.
It really is, especially when you get clients who kind of send you a text message and say, like, thank you so much, you've made such a difference, thank you for everything you've done. I mean, I just did a case that we actually won on Tuesday, and my client was a 19-year-old lad, and it was a wrong place, wrong time case, and we won, and his whole family kind of texted me thanking me for everything I'd done, thanking me for supporting them and believing in them and just treating them well. And that's the most rewarding part of this job.
Yeah, not the money.
Yeah, not the money at all.
Yeah.
I mean, half the time, obviously, we all have bills to pay, we all have things we need to pay for, but half the time I just don't think about the money because I'm so invested in what I'm doing. That's all I care about. I don't see anything else.
Passion over profit.
Absolutely.
And, you were just talking about this 19-year-old lad. I mean, what would have been the worst case scenario for him if he hadn't have won? What would it have?
About 3.5 to 5 years in jail.
Yes, it's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And he was a 19-year-old lad. He had kind of obviously his entire life ahead of him. He was in a wrong place at a wrong time with the wrong friends, and that one kind of split-second decision to be there could have changed the entire route of his life. And without a solicitor, he likely would have served the time in jail. So thankfully, he had us, and we looked after him, and we got him his justice.
Yeah, amazing. I know also, when they are going, these young boys or girls, but mostly, I take it it's mostly men you represent.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Once they're in the prisons, this is their life then.
Yeah.
They're meeting people, they're meeting actual real criminals that
absolutely
of being criminals that spent time in prison. And then, I was recently speaking to someone who's part of a gang, and this that gang mentality, and it's not just that prison sentence, it's literally the brainwashing that goes with being in prison for the rest of their lives, and it's just a pattern that keeps going on.
It really is. There is obviously courses and there is help in prison, but the reality of it is once you go to prison, you're pretty much lost in that system after that. And that's why I fight so hard for my clients, because I don't want any of my clients to be lost in a system. Obviously, there are occasions where clients do have to serve the time for their offence, and I very often check on my clients, and I will write to them and I will check in on them, make sure that they're okay, see how they're doing. The relationship I build with my clients is never one that will just drop the second that their case is done.
Yeah.
I definitely do everything I can to make sure they get the help if they do go to jail. Absolutely. Yeah.
Themselves. Amazing. Right. Well, thank you for coming today. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that's it.
Cool. Right, let's go then. All right, well done.